What is it like being a Jamaican living in Toronto, Ontario, Canada? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, and today in Jamaicans to the world, I speak to my good friend Roger, who is living there in Toronto. Roger, how are you?
I am fantastic. One correction though, I don't live in Toronto. I live in Whitby, which is what they call like the greater Toronto area. So, everything that's the outskirts of Toronto, right? So the
All right.
GTA, as
You know,
people are familiar with it.
you know how it is. They used to call all of South Florida Miami, and
Yeah, I know.
I'm from Portmore is part of. I've heard people say Portmore is part of Kingston.
Even though it's in a different parish. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So which part of Jamaica you're from?
Well, I'm originally from Kingston. Kingston,
Okay.
Kingston, what was it? I don't know what ended up at Kingston 6 was the last
Okay.
bit. And no, I think I went into Red Hills. I can't remember what Kingston that is right now. But we've
All
lived
right.
we've lived in uh, Mona, Havendale, Mona, Barbican, Red Hills.
All right. So a true Kingstonian here.
Ooh, Kingston. I lived in Montego Bay for a year.
Okay. All
Over a
right.
year.
So you get a flavor of the other city then.
Yeah, man, the second city.
So which school you represented?
Wolmer's, oldest school in the Caribbean, bro.
All
Oldest
right.
high school in the
Oles
Caribbean.
High School.
Yes.
All right. Some
And
great
Portuguese.
Wolmerians. No beef with my Wolmerian friends. I have some good
I
Wolmerian
hope not.
brethren.
The conversation is over. I
We're
know
not going
you're a dirty boy, right?
we're not going to get into the sports conversation. This will go back and forth for a bit. We're not going to get into the sports
No, no.
conversation.
Woolmers is all about cricket and swimming and school challenge quiz and those types of things. Not on the track and field front. We've never dominated in that area.
Although I have a field there, and I have a nice, well, not
Very, very good field.
right. You have a nice field there. I used to go to Saturday classes
Okay.
at Wolmer's. It was the thing to do back then.
Yes, 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 yes. I had a grand ideas of becoming a track and field star. So, from first to third form, I used to do training and everything. But, I think when my coach, Mr. Oliver, when he left, I
Right.
stopped. I just lost interest in it. I probably shouldn't have, but hey.
Hey, we all have the dreams. You're running on a different track right now, one of the big platforms there, buyblacks.com. I mean, congrats on that. And
Thank
so
you.
you're running the race still. You're running the race.
It's a different race, as you said. This is the digital race.
Exactly.
It's faster.
As your quint.
Yeah,
So,
man. It's
so,
crazy.
so how long have you lived in Canada?
I came here June 12th, 2000. So this year is going to be 23 years of living in Canada. And it's funny because I don't know about you, because you live in South Florida. You've been there a long time too. But it never truly feels like home. Jamaica still feels like home to me. So every time I go back there, it's like, okay, I've gone back home.
Yeah, I recently just come back and it's like there's no feeling like home. There's no feeling
Absolutely no feeling.
like home. You may get all the luxuries of it, where you are, but there's no.
Material,
Yeah,
material luxury, but the social luxuries don't exist here
yeah.
in
Time
Canada.
slows a little, and you're yeah. So culture shock. What was a big culture shock for you when you got to Canada?
I mean, aside from the cold, well, it was just cool. I remember the first time I saw snow. I was leaving. I was living in a condo, and I was driving out to go to work. It would have been November, and as I exited the garage, I saw these flurries coming down. Like, wow, it looks so beautiful, right? It looks so beautiful. It's that thing. But then now, when you got to the parking lot, now you have to come out of the car, and then there's all the snow. And you have to tread through the snow and mashing up my shoes because I didn't really understand that they couldn't wear the Aldo shoes anymore because it doesn't hold up to to the salt.
Yeah, I want to thank you because when I recently saw you, you had welcomed me to Canada with a bunch of snow.
Why
So
you came? I think that event was on the worst possible day. I think it was the worst snow day that day. That the JC dinner, the fundraiser, it was the worst snow that we had for the whole season. I wasn't even sure that Mark and those guys were gonna have the event. I heard they had to physically clear some of the snow in the parking lot. That's crazy.
I can and I don't know. I take my hats off to all the folks that live in this,
Yeah,
winter weather. I take my hats off to you because I could never do it. But we adjust as Jamaicans.
yeah, man. We can't deal with anything. We have Jamaicans living in what Yellowknife, Nunavut, Yukon, Saskatchewan. You have Jamaicans living all over Canada in the coldest places. So we are resilient that way.
Nice, nice. Cost of living. What's cost of living like?
Much higher, much higher. I find that there are certain things that are cheaper, right? So originally, I would have said that housing was cheaper, but right now, you know what's going on in North America. Um, in Jamaica, I found that the cell service was cheaper, and the cable was cheaper than here, right? And then in a way, I would say food to me is cheaper there because there's so much more food that you can just get from people who have it in their backyard, right? So
Right.
I'm not gonna find anybody here that has a mango tree in their backyard or a soursop tree and just say, hey, I just picked these off. Brethren, you want some? No, that doesn't happen here. The most you might find is somebody may have an apple tree. They may have an apple
Okay.
tree in their backyard or a pear tree, like my neighbor.
What we're not talking Jamaican pear though. We're
No,
talking
we're talking Bartlett pear. Just to be
okay. All
specific,
right.
Bartlett.
Because weird story. I've heard one person I know that lived in a weird, winter climate.
Yeah.
A neighbor actually had a miniature mango tree
What?
and had it
Outside?
in a pot, right?
Oh, no, okay.
But during the summer, they'd bring it out. And then
Yes.
in the winter,
They
they
put it
put
back
it
inside.
in the garage with lights.
Wow.
And it beared 1 year, some small mangoes. And then after that, it died.
Of course.
It lasted maybe about 2 or 3 years, a person had mentioned to me. And I was like, wow, can you imagine?
It's looking to roots. The roots are looking to go somewhere and go
Yes,
deeper so it
yes,
can get bigger. So when it doesn't find that, then it's gonna die off.
yes,
So yeah, the food I'd find. Cost of living in Jamaica is definitely it seems to be more expensive overall now.
right,
With when I compare like the things that you can't avoid,
right,
like a light bill, right?
right,
So
right,
the
right.
light bill here is cheaper than the light bill there,
Mm,
using the same air conditioning, blah blah. And I'm comparing summer, of course, because
right, right, right. Well, always cold. Half of the year is cold. I'm just
half half. My dad used to joke, and he used to go to Calgary all the while. My stepmother's brother lives there, and he would say that the summer begins in July and ends in July.
so food. I will stay on food a little bit now.
Yes.
Where do you get? Well, why am I even asking you about food? You all do this whole
By Black's Restaurant Week.
restaurant week,
Yeah.
so you get your Jamaican fix whenever you want it. That's what I
Everywhere.
gotta say.
So here's the phenomena about this food journey that I've been on, this By Black's Restaurant Week. There are over 700 and something restaurants. It's probably more than that, to be honest with you. Restaurants open and close, I would say almost every week, right? I just saw there was a new restaurant, Jamaican restaurant, open up in Niagara Falls. The number one cuisine for Black restaurants is Jamaican food. So
Wow.
yeah, so you can find. I've found the funniest one was Alliston. I went to a place called Alliston, which is close to Barrie, and Barrie is north of the GTA. as we like to call it, up in cottage country and all of that. Yeah, another hour and a half in Muskoka. You're in deep cottage country, lakes and everything. Countries like we would call it country in Jamaica. And I went to Alliston. I went to my friend's house. I don't eat red meat. He had a pizza with pork on it. I said, "Where can I? Is there a black-owned restaurant?" And he said, "Yeah. There's one close to the main street down in the quote-unquote downtown." Alliston. It's a little town, right? A little town. And there it was, a husband and wife team running a Jamaican restaurant. I don't remember the name right now, to be honest with you. But rough and tumble is what I like to call it. Jamaican restaurant, not a pretty restaurant, but the food tasted good.
Listen, I always said this to folks, I said, when you go to a hole in the wall.
Yeah. See, I call it rough and tumble.
Yeah, the hole in the wall restaurants. Oh my gosh, the food is always good.
Because I bought. I don't eat, as I said, I don't eat red meat. But a friend of mine was there, and he said, "Oh, I get my curry goat." I got the curry goat, and he cleaned up the whole of that thing, man. I had curry chicken with rice and peas, steamed. Yeah, man, I cleaned up all of it. So talking about the restaurants, I've been to a Jamaican restaurant. There's multiple ones in as far as Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Regina. I hear there's one up in the Yukon, which is northern, like cool. Like right now, it's probably -2.
Yeah, -2.
I don't know. You know what? I'd have to check it. But, I'm being funny about the fact that it's always cool, right?
Right.
Saskatchewan, GTA is just, we have so many Jamaican restaurants.
So it seems like the culture has, because number one in terms of cuisine and so on, it's really taken off in.
Well, an important thing to know is that I think the majority of Black Canadians, if you were to identify one group of people that is the majority in the Black, 1.2 million Black people, it would be Jamaicans, right? So that's why there's a predominant, amount of restaurants. And then the stats that we're seeing, I'm just giving you stats from my website. So we have about 4,800 businesses listed, and that includes, actors, singers, everything else, right? And the category with the most businesses is food business. So restaurants, caterers, and food manufacturers. So maybe they make sauces or whatever the case may be. So 20% of the listings are food business. So you could say it in a different way, that if you're a Black entrepreneur, there's 1 in 5 Black entrepreneurs are more likely to go into a food business than any other business. And the reason because of that is the barriers to entry are very low. You don't need to have an education to do it. You need to know how to cook. And you need to know how to run a business. But you just need to pass the food inspection. So which anybody can do. You can clean the place. And, Jamaicans are typically, in my opinion, one of the cleanest people that I've seen, that I've interacted. They are
be it 3 times a day.
Yeah, man, 3 times a day, clean and wash them. Then wash the chicken with lemon and then wash it again with vinegar.
Oh yes.
Big argument about that too, by the way, because some people in North America don't wash their chicken. They just take it out the package and throw it on the grill.
Oh, we've seen the videos. And oh man. So I will switch up just a little bit on the food part now.
Yes.
Canada, Toronto, Ontario, food. From the perspective of what would you call typical Canadian or maybe Torontoian or Ontario, what would you call a typical food there? Or there's none? If there's none, that's fine.
No, so in Montreal, there's poutine, right? There's the poutine. That might be something, but I can't really identify something that I would say is a Canadian food. Wow, that's a tough one.
All right.
That's a tough one.
That's fine. I mean,
because I don't eat red meat, because there's bison. So people eat bison up here, bison burger. My wife loves a bison burger. So she's a meat eater. I don't eat red meat. So maybe that could be something. But I mean, it seems to me to be, steak, fries, and I could be wrong. Hey, Don't kill me. Don't kill me. But I'm not big on that type of cuisine.
All right, all right. The Jamaican community there in that area, how would you describe the community? Is it a community that, is really together, support, and you are very familiar with this. You've been, as
Yeah.
I said, how would you describe the community there?
So,
Because let me say this before you even answer, because I went, again, when I last saw you most recently, right?
Yeah, March.
Was last month?
It was March.
Yeah. And basically, to see all these people come out to an event during
a snowstorm,
a snowstorm to me was amazing, because there are other areas, and I'm not calling out South Florida now, or I'm not calling out any other areas, but liquor rain drop and
nobody no move.
Nobody now move.
No play.
I say that to ask you now the question I asked about the community.
So the thing is, all right, so that community question is a very interesting one, because I feel like there's no real in the GTA, there's no Black community. So let me explain myself before people jump on me. To me, a community is somewhere where physically, geographically, a large number of predominantly Black people will live, right? And they will have certain things like, typically they would have like, grocery store, church, bank, medical center, or hospital, etc. Right? So that's a community. A friend of mine, Dr. Vibe, he would say that it's more like a constellation. When you think a constellation of stars, they're dispersed all over the place. So what if you talk about community in terms of people who actually get together sometimes and interact, then we have a community, but not in the physical sense. The first time I actually saw a Black community in Canada was my trip to Halifax this year, when I went to do the discovery tour of Halifax to see what restaurants were there, Black restaurants. And I went to those iconic Black settlements, North Preston, East Preston, Upper Hammonds Plains. And those places are Black communities where you have acres and acres and acres of land, where communities, Black people, have owned that land or lived on that land for a very long time, right? And they own a lot of different businesses that operate inside of that community. So the community from a geographical and from what you'd call a communal space, right?
Okay.
So it's different. So we, the constellation of the GTA, is what I'm gonna call it, right? So you have people that, people who live in Oakville, Hamilton, right? They live all over. So if they are coming together in certain spaces to be a community, but they're not a community. Okay. If you understand that, they gather infrequently. So what was happening with that JC dinner? The fact is they hadn't had it in 3 years, a physical dinner, right? So that was the first time they had it in 3 years. So there was a lot of desire to want to see friends and everything that we would have normally seen every year during that particular event.
I see.
So that was what it is. And of course, Mark and his crew, they did
excellent job.
Yeah, they did an excellent job. And not only that, they have a strong
following
of friends, and right. From other schools too, because I'm not from GC, I'm from Wilmot.
Right, right. Well, so I'm gonna change. It's kind of on the same topic.
Yeah.
There is, and I never been down there. I've been to Canada 3 times, but never been there. There is a stretch which has these Jamaican restaurants. You might know that. You'll tell me the name and businesses. And I think one iconic business closed recently.
Yes.
If I remember correct, again, forgive me for not remembering. Fill me in. But I know that's a district. I don't know if it's being gentrified. I think I've heard that. But that is like a Caribbean, Jamaican business community area that from what I understand. So fill me in.
So you're talking about Little Jamaica is what you're talking about.
Little Jamaica, exactly.
Little Jamaica, right. So the city of Toronto has designated it, I believe it's called a heritage area. as well. It might be a different name, so forgive me if I don't have the right thing. I think what happened, if I understand it correctly, that area was not it was not a wealthy area. Let me put it that way. Back in the day, so it was an area where new immigrants, and particularly from Jamaica, who had just come to the country, would find and settle. Right. So it's a stretch of road on Eglinton West from, I believe it's from Oakwood all the way over to Kiel, I believe. Right. So right now it's funny that they call it Little Jamaica, and there people on both sides of the fence arguing that it shouldn't be called Little Jamaica, and some people argue it should be called Little Jamaica. So there are a number of not just restaurants, but and not all of them are Jamaican restaurants. Some of them are, because we just did a restaurant with 10 restaurants from down there participated. I went to one that's St. Lucian, Jacos, right? So there's St. Lucian. And then along the stretch, there are Filipino, Korean, Chinese, Greek. I mean, you have all different types of cuisines being offered, but we have a lot of barbershops down that side. There's a very famous music store, Treasure Isle Records. I think the one that closed down was Randy's Patties.
Randy's, yes, yeah. Yes.
Raps is still there. Raps is still open. Spencer's Bakery still open. There's a new patty shop opening up soon. I think it's called Kingston, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are a lot of different types of. There's tax accountant, a lot of fashion, designers, etc. Beauty salons down there, mortgage, realtors, etc. So there's a plethora of businesses. Not all of them are Jamaican. I would even argue that the majority of them are not Jamaican.
Okay.
It's just that it's known
as Little Jamaica
because of the fact that a lot of Jamaicans that are famous now pass through there are
right. So it's almost like a platform, a starting spot, and then folks branched off. Now, is there like still a famous Jamaican market there or store that you say, listen, if I need this, I'm going down there to go get it?
No, that's a good question. I think there probably was at some time a lot of people would go there. The thing is that because of they had the train expansion that was going along Eglinton West, and they had to do a lot of construction on the street, and it caused a massive slowdown in business for anybody who was on that stretch. Now they've since removed all the construction and the barriers and everything. Now most of the stations have been installed, and that's to your point of the gentrification now. So now that there's a subway running along that road, I think the expectation is that a lot of different people are going to end up moving into the area. That's what their expectation is. The funny thing about that road too is that north and south of Eglinton West, if you just drive down south, turn off of one of the side roads and go down about 200 meters, you're down into sometimes very rich neighborhoods. And the same thing, if you go north and you go off a side road and you drive 200 meters, you're into very rich neighborhoods. So it was ironic to me that the strip was kind of rough and tumble, right? And then you just a few walks in, right, and there's all this rich people, right? Very, very wealthy homes. So
yeah, I'd love to go visit one of these.
Yeah, man.
It may be very different, and I just never got the opportunity, but it may be very different because the Brixton market in the UK, that area has, I've kind of seen the change, the gentrification. So
it's coming. Well, I mean, the thing about gentrification is it happens because if you're coming up and you're a young person and there's an area that you can afford, you're going to buy into that area. And this is something that, the mistake I think that a lot of us Black Canadians made was not to buy into the area. So a lot of those stores were being leased and rented. So when those landlords said, okay, well, I want to sell it, they just kick them out, right? And they didn't make a move to buy it. So I think a lot of us should have bought for the
Right.
years and years and years that so many people were there. We should have owned much more buildings than we own. We do
Oh,
own some of them,
right.
not,
Right.
not to the rate of, you know, if you say Little Jamaica, we should have owned,
Little Jamaica.
right? But
Oh,
we don't.
so switching up events, you know what's happening there. If
Ooh,
you know,
somewhat,
what
somewhat.
what's the big Jamaican slash Caribbean event? I know which one I would say, but what do you see as the big Jamaican Caribbean event
Well,
in
all right,
Toronto
hold on.
here?
If you said Jamaican, that's one thing. But if you say Caribbean, that's a different thing.
All right, so give me the Jamaican one, then the Caribbean one.
The Jamaican one would be Jerkfest, in my opinion. That's the biggest Jamaican event that's happening, and it still is a great way to experience, um, our culture. The singers, and they typically bring very good artists from Jamaica. Good most of the time, good clean artists, people that are very popular, and they've since added a Friday night R&B night, to bring in like a old school artist. I think Johnny Gill is performing on Friday night this year.
Nice.
So that's still to me one of it. They still get a good showing and everything. And
Right.
but of course on the Caribbean side now, that's what people will still call Caribana, right? Old school people who've been here a long time, they still call it Caribana. The official name is Toronto Caribbean Carnival, but people still call it Caribana. That's the biggest. It's the biggest Caribbean event in North America. It's bigger than the Labor Day one in New York.
Yes, the biggest one, one in North America.
But still, it's so weird that they still have not figured out a way to really monetize that event and extract a lot of money out of it for a lot of people. There are a few people that make money. And then the city makes so much money, you'd figure that they would have figured out a way to get money from the city as well too, and all, but no. Yeah.
It's very interesting you bring that up because, I was reading something out of Jamaica, talking about, monetizing, culture, and, some of the comments and questions were, how do you monetize culture? And this, I'm just throwing it out there. If people want to post that in the comments, feel free, because you and I could have a long discussion on that.
Oh boy!
But it's not something new. This model, there are models out there, and so. But I don't want. We could. You and I will have an offline discussion.
Yeah.
Because that one is
The bottom line of it is just to own the rights. It's like anything else, Coachella or any big event, right? So once you own the rights, so around Coachella, there's what Coachella is, right? So there's so many parties that happen as a result of the fact that the big show is happening. So just like Caribana or Toronto Caribbean Carnival, there's so many splinter events happening, so many different promoters. So there must have been a way for them to say, okay, if you want to make your event an official Toronto Caribbean Carnival event, you have to use our ticketing platform.
Yeah.
Simple. And I'll collect $1 off of every ticket. So 1 million people coming in, going to at least 2 or 3 events for the whole weekend. You can do the math.
Yep.
Not alone. And then even just the sponsors, just to make sure that you get the right sponsors. But you see, the thing is, so many younger people have come up with ideas and presented it to the old management, the FMC, the old FMC, and they presented different ideas about how to make things better and how to, bring in the new strategies, and they just ignored them and just went along their way. And now look at that. I think there's a whole new board in place now. And even the CEO that just came in 2 years ago, I think she's gone already. So that's a whole lot of conversation.
All right. So funniest Jamaican experience that you have had when somebody finds out you're Jamaican and they ask you a question. The funniest one you've had, probably in you're going to have to go back in the data library, pull that floppy disk out.
Wow.
And see if you remember any of them.
You know what? The funniest one, one of the funniest ones, it didn't even happen to me. It happened to a friend of mine who So she came up here from Jamaica, and she was waiting on the bus. So first of all, she couldn't figure out why everybody was lining up to take the bus, right? So when the bus came, she pushed past everybody and went onto the bus. And of course, you could imagine the stares at everybody like, what the hell is wrong with this person? But you see, that's what you have to do in Jamaica. You're not going to get on that bus.
Right.
But here in Canada, they line up. So, you know, what I think, as she was telling me the story after the I was just like, oh, Roger, I can't believe that I did that. Well, I mean, the kid, there's been so many different experiences like that. Like, you know, even the one, as I said, you know, walking through the snow in your nice, you know,
That's true.
pleather shoes. I think that I could hold up and then feeling the wetness sweeping through into your socks and all. I mean, you live and you learn, and then you realize that things like goulashes and, you know, I used to wonder why the guys would bring 2 pairs of shoes. I'm like, what's wrong with these guys? They bring 1 pair of shoes and then they put on a different pair of shoes in the office, and
oh my gosh, you all lose about 45 minutes every day when it comes to snow, but that's another day.
I do remember though, there's one time I actually, so when I just started working, one of my coworkers used to take me to work every day, right? So, and there's one day she couldn't take me. And I said, oh, geez, no, I have to take the bus. And it was November, same November, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to get the bus from this point and then get to this point. I had to do an exchange. I wasn't really familiar with the bus system. It's 2000, right? So I had on, I had this nice looking leather jacket, right? But it's thin, it's not thick. It's not like a goose down jacket, which is what I would wear now, right? So I'm in this nice looking leather jacket, didn't even have a scarf, just my regular shirt, a couple of layers, nothing too much. So I get to the bus stop, and the bus wasn't coming for another 15 minutes. Man, Xavier, the thing was so cold that my eyes, the water started, tears started, and it started freezing on my face. Two things I learned on that thing. A, I needed to get that car quickly, and B, you need to dress properly in the elements.
Listen, Roger, you and I can sit down here and chat for hours. Wrapping up.
Yes.
Attraction or place in Canada that you'd say, because you have traveled, you've been west, you've been north, you've been south, you've traveled around Canada, and this is why, you know, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us a little bit of, you know, about Canada. Where would you say, listen, this is an attraction or a thing that, or, you know, a place you must go see this if you can to Canada, if you come to Canada?
All right. So, you know, it's just going to sound cliche, but Niagara Falls, I have been there, I would say over 100 times since I've been here, and it never gets stale to me or old. It's just looking at it, it's just magnificent. We still walk down to the falls and look at it, and we've seen it so many times. So that's something that anybody who comes here, they need to see Niagara Falls. It's magnificent. That's the only way for me to describe it. The other place that I went to just last year, I went to Lake Louise in Alberta, and just the beauty of the lake. If I could, if it wasn't that cool, I could have sat down there and looked at that lake for a whole day. It's stunning. Just the way how the mountains cascade down, and there's some biological thing that happens, like the silt off the mountains come down, and that's what created that deep blue look in there. So that's also something else. And then you know, there's whale watching out in Prince Edward Island, but down in, even still staying in Ontario, there's a place called Prince Edward County. There's Prince Edward Island, which is way out east in the Atlantic, but there's something called Prince Edward County, and it's his home to geographical, I don't know, splendor called sandbanks. So this is white sand beach in Ontario on a lake. Unbelievable. It's a
Wow.
it's a geographical phenomenon, right?
Wow.
But it's yeah, it's the places that you. There's so many more. There's so much more. I
Oh,
mean,
listen, I was about to say, folks, you can, check Roger out on buymax.com because in no Canada,
yeah, man.
in around, and so, and post your comments, folks, if you have other places we should see. But I know he could tell me 10 places,
Yeah,
and
man. There's
we
so
could
much
have
more.
full discussion on just places
So much
because
more.
he's traveled, he knows Canada.
Ontario tourism, you need to hire me.
So wrapping up, when you visit Jamaica, get off the plane.
Yes.
What is that first thing that you're doing?
We stop and we get coconut water because my wife, she loves coconut water. So that's the first thing that she's gonna do. She's gonna get some coconut water. The next thing is that we get some food. Right. So
what type of food? What type of food?
Okay, I tend to just go straight for the ackee and saltfish or some steamed fish. So there's one of those two that I'm getting. Steamed fish or ackee and saltfish.
So the cleanse, wash the liver, wash the cleanse.
Wash off the heart.
Wash off the heart with the coconut water first, and then dive in.
Yeah. So,
go ahead.
Every time I get to Jamaica, I understanding the process of traveling in this modern day world, you have to. My house is an hour from the airport, 45 minutes hour. So you gotta travel to the airport. You gotta get there 2 hours before the flight, right? So that's 3 hours. Then the flight is 4 hours. That's 7 hours, and then it's gonna take you an hour to 2 hours. Well, to where I'm about to describe, it's gonna take you from Kingston 2.5. Yeah, from Mobile probably about 3. So my favorite place in Jamaica is Frenchman's Cove. I think it's some nostalgia with my mom used to take us there as kids. So I just remember it that, and it has maintained its splendor. It's a well-maintained property. It's not the beach is very rough, as you know, but
I recently came back. I last went as a child, and let me tell you, magnificent.
Magnificent. The river meets the sea.
Yes.
The river is crystal blue.
Yes. Right? And it's cold as the water.
Yeah.
Right at the tip, and then as you go out, it gets warmer because it is.
Oh my God, the place is beautiful. So I figured out 10 hours of travel, and when I get to Frenchman's Cove, I say, okay, it was worth it. I said that's what it was all about. That 10 hours was about getting to Frenchman's Cove.
It is, and the little restaurant we tried there, that is right there, man. Oh my gosh,
delicious and reasonable.
Reasonable price.
Yes.
And the fish was great.
Whole heap of food. Say Jamaica Tourism Board, you need to hire me too. No, I am Jamaica's Jamaican. I love Jamaica. I love Nick Grill, right? I went back recently. I went to Glistening Waters. I want to go back to Green Grotto Caves. I want to go back to Dunsborough Falls. I've gone rafting on the Mata Bay, the Rio Grande. I've been over to Lover's Leap. My mom was from Westmoreland, so I've been to Bluefields before all of that hotel stuff was there. We used to, all right, watch this now. We used to go Gunboat Beach. You know where that is?
I know Gunboat Beach too.
All right, no longer exists.
Right.
No longer exists, right?
Yes.
But back in the day, we would be going on Palisados there.
Right there. The beach was right there.
Beach was right there. So all these things, my mother, I think I have to credit it to my mom. She was very intentional about making sure that we knew Jamaica. So she took us to every parish. There's no parish I haven't been to. People are from here, from Jamaica, and they're like, oh, I've never been to Portland. I'm like, how can you've never been to the Blue Lagoon? Are you crazy? You never been to Somerset Falls? You never been to Frenchman's Cove, Winifred Beach, Sansan, Boston Jerk Pork? I don't eat pork, but geez, oh my God.
Mr. Jamaica Tourist Board himself.
Yeah, I have to say, I love Jamaica. Despite we know what the downfalls or whatever of Jamaica
right
is, right? But the positive, in my opinion, way outweighs the negatives.
Amen, my brother. Amen.
Yeah.
So last item. Canadians, greetings. How do they typically say, end of the day, we say little more, catch you later. How do the Canadians do it? Or they really don't have anything?
I don't even think they tell you goodbye. So that's something that
and that's another topic, because I know there's a French Canadians, and then there's what do you call the opposite of the French Canadians? Because there's a two sides I've heard.
There's francophones and anglophones. So the francophones are English speaking, francophones are French speaking. But Canadians are very polite. That's been my experience. They're very, hey, how you doing, Roger? Good, thanks. So there's that, exchange. But sometimes I find like the younger kids, they'll come to the house and they don't tell you good morning, hello, or anything like that. They just, where's Chase? That's my son. I'm like, hold on a second. Hello. So manners, in Jamaica, if you went into an elevator in a building in Jamaica, you'd go in, somebody would be in there, you'd say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time of day was. People just come in the elevator and they just hold on their head or they're just on their phone.
So what I love to do is I love to be the one in the elevator to say, good morning.
Yeah.
Or break the silence. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I'm that person.
Yeah, I was that person, and then after a while you kind of realize you'll say something and they probably won't even respond. They won't respond. So
well, listen, Roger, thanks again. Check him out on buyblackstock.com. Very knowledgeable. They have Restaurant Week. They do so much. Great platform. Good friend of mine. Again, Roger, thank you. Walk good, my friend.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Show us some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.